So, let's start. With that previous experience, I went to the 3D animation field, and right now I'm a 3D artist. And professionally, I've been working at Incessant Studio as an asset supervisor here at Kathmandu, Nepal, for last 11 years. And in the studio, we do VFX for feature movie series. We also do documentaries and, of course, 3D animation for animation movies, shorts, and to show you a small story of my company that can help you to understand what we actually do and also help me to jump on the subject. So just give me a second. Now you guys able to see?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Let me go back to my PPT. Okay, so I hope you got some clear picture of what we do. You can see we have created assets and animation for some projects like Kung Fu Panda, and we recently did for the Space Jam 2. We did some asset creation and some animation work cycle for that game as well, and we did motion capture for the facial motion capture for the Red Dead Redemption, not for the two, but for the previous one. We did asset development for the Trolls game, and also for the Max Payne 2, not the first one, but the second one. Not the asset, but we did some of the lip syncing and rest of the thing like that. So okay, so let's go to the subject. Game development. Simply game development, from my understanding, as I hear from the previous talks, most of the guys knows much better than me, but I'm just sharing my own simple knowledge to everybody. So make sure if there's anything that you can share with me too. So simply game development, I understand, is a process of creating a game, a video game, and it can be created by a single person or a big team depending on how complex and detailed the game is. I come to realize that game industry has a lot of branches, and from my point of view, I can put those branches into two areas. One is more technical or logical area, which includes scripting, simulating artificial intelligence, implementing algorithms, fixing bugs, and the other side is a pure artistic or a creative area that includes storyline, design, creating assets and characters that we play through, and the environments where we explore animation styles like how character walks and jumps and such. This creative group is more responsible for bringing color, movement, and life to the game. And we, as a company, are more involved in these creative areas rather than the technical or programming side in the game development by creating assets and animation. And that is what I'm going to share with you today, because these are the areas where game development and animations are overlaps up to a certain point. So my whole today's talk especially are for those people just like me 11 years ago. Like if they wants to go into the game industry, uh, just want to clear their head is that you do not definitely have to be a programmer, or you do not have to be only a who have a lot of logical things. You can go into the development if you have a certain artistic knowledge or talent. So that is my main concern here. Okay, so I want to show you in brief how these assets get created and how it goes to the different departments until it becomes game ready. First, we start with the concept art and character design. Concept art is a form of visual art that is used to convey the idea or general style of games or movies before going into the production. The art director or creative director brings a brief to the artist, and this brief might explain a character's personality, some visual features, or anything relevant to the design. uh, for example, here you can see we did this is project. It's a road safety project where this project's main motto was to use the helmet, wear a helmet while on a bike. So here we did it in a most stylized way. You can see the house are most stylized. The characters is more cartoony and stylized. So as a concept artist, our concept art is responsible for creating everything we see in games or in animated features, movies, shorts. All the weapon props and every minor detail of the characters falls into this category. So once it's approved, we then move forward to the model sheet. Here you can see the characters front, side, and back view. This is needed for the upcoming department, which is the modeling department, because they model this character in 3D application like Maya, Blender, and they need clear information on how characters should look on a different views, because they are going to model it in every part of the area. So this model sheet is specially done for main characters or main props like vehicles that have a major role in a 3D animation in the short or in the movie or even a game, and it requires much attention. So once this is locked, we start modeling the assets. So modeling is basically generating a 3D objects or surface. These 3D objects are the mesh, which is best described as a collection of points or vertices, as you can see. Uh, and one thing the modeler has to keep in mind is there are a lot of things, principles that involves here, like maintaining the loops so that it doesn't go zigzag, and it should follow the specific pattern. Because if, let's say, for example, if this character smile, the loops should follow them, and it will support those movements. So we cannot like randomly add the vertices and put all the things like that. It should be systematically flown within the structure of the character. So is an artist use software like Maya, Blender to manipulate these points or vertices to form a mesh is for the concept and designs. There are other applications as well, like ZBrush, where artists can sculpt a 3D object with material similar to the digitized clay. This kind of applications comes with brushes and tools that pull pins. It make it easy to create detailed sculpts, and it's that mimics real life textures and objects. What separates it from other 3D tool is that it mimics the traditional sculpting techniques, and which can be done digitally on a computer. The sculpting tools from these softwares allow a wide degree of creative freedom. Not only can artists create more organic and detailed models, they can often arrive with a finished product much faster than other programs like Maya and 3ds Max. Model that is created in this software is very dense, and so we bake this detailed information into a displacement map that which has a information of a displacement strength, which we apply later during the texturing process. And one thing I want to share my experience that while modeling for games, especially, optimization was really important, because games, we all of us know that's real time, and we interact with characters in real time, requires a significant amount of memory and processing power. And while optimizing, we need to consider the level of details, especially because I work both in the 3D animation and in the gaming, and I found this is very kind of a strict rule. Uh, and For example, here in this image, you can see the torso model in a different optimized level. Uh, for example, here you can see there are only how many, one, two, three, four loops, and within the four loops, the structure is formed. And so in the next one, there's a more edge loops and more vertices, means more data and more memory consumption. But this will give the modeler or artist to form the shape more clearly. So the more the dense the loops and the vertices are, the more it will be detailed. We can say that more the optimization, lesser is the detail, because more we optimize it, we lose the more the details. But these kind of details can go to the from the displacement map, like I mentioned before. But some of the things has to be on the model itself. So, okay, because a lot of the things, although it carry by the displacement map, may not look appealing. So some of the things has to go on the model, and we have to consider that as well, because because we all know system for the hardware, and during a game development, we need to consider the balance between the details and the hardware limitations. And this applies to not only the modeling department or modeling area, it goes to the all the departments, the optimization process, like not like we used to do on the while doing a 3D animation and movies like that. So anyway, so once the movies is locked, we move to the next department, which is texturing department. And here we add color or surface and material properties to a 3D model. It is basically wrapping a 2D image around a 3D object and defining how light would affect it. It includes three stages: unwrapping, texturing, painting, and rendering. First, unwrapping. Unwrapping is a process of creating a UV map, a flat. It's a flat representation 3D model, which is used to easily wrap texture. As I said before, it is usually done by the same application using modeling like Maya Painter. You can see the same character has been its mesh has been cut out and flattened and placed in a UV form, where we can see every parts of it. So after this, we take this mapped model to texturing. Here we add colors, define the surface, define what surface is like, whether it's a skin or metal or wood, etc. For texturing, there are various applications. Now, some popular 3D applications are Substance Painter, which we actively use in the company. Designer, Mario, where artists paint directly on a 3D model. That makes it easy to interact, generate texture passes automatically, and see the result very quickly. Because before these softwares, let's say when I used to start the work, what I used to do in those times is, once the model is done, we used to do the unwrap that I showed you before, and we used to take those UV snapshot to the Photoshop, and we paint on top of it, and we save that image, take it back to the Maya, and check it whether it's gonna be whether it's okay or not. So those back and forth take a lot of times, but nowadays, due to these applications, things are getting much easier, because artists can directly interact with the model, and they can turn around, paint wherever they want. And even these applications does generate a lot of other passes which are needed. For example, even the displacement, normal map, it will go, once you are texturing and detailing, other passes simultaneously getting generated behind. And also this kind of applications has a predefined module which we can trigger. For example, if you want the texture for the Unreal Engine, you don't have to do a lot of things like we used to do before. It's just it has already a preset defined, and you easily generate and export it. So that is the thing for the texturing. And after this, if we are creating for animated movies, then it will go to the render, all the passes that comes out, texture passes, images, actually texture images and passes will go to the render engine like Arnold, V-Ray, Redshift, like that, if we are doing it for the animated movies. But if we are creating games, it will go to the game engines like Unreal, Unity, CryEngine, where we assemble, the artist assemble all the texture with its physical property uh, by using a game engine shaders and materials. In general, from here we can see how characters or any asset finally gonna look like in game. So while the texturing process is going on, same model goes to the another department as well, and that is rigging. Here we will put the bone structure on a 3D model, and this bone structure is later used by animators to manipulate a 3D model like a puppet for animation. There is a special rigging for generating emotions and expressions on face, and that is facial rigging, is here. Facial rigging is the process of adding controls to a face for animating facial expressions. These controls are commonly bound to either deformers or plane shapes, both of which modify the face shapes, scales, or orientation. To simplify because rigging is more like a technical areas, it includes a lot of scripting behind and generating a lot of plugins. It's more, I can say it's more like a technical thing. So to simplify the description of rigging process in the animation, or especially in the animation, I've divided into the 4 parts. The first one is called the skinning. It starts by constructing a series of bones that represents model skeleton, you can see here. And it begins by creating and getting bones and joints that represents the model. The second is creating a controller for controlling the effects of every part of the model's movement, helping animators to understand the function of controllers. They represent different geometrical shapes. After that, character viewers add movement patterns and facial gestures to the model. The relationship between the bones in every movement is hierarchical. And that means if you want to move a 3D model character shoulder, its hands and forearm bones also moves. So this connection simplifies rigging, because the character riggers does not need to define actions for every little part of the model. The third is joints, which are different from the joint that I mentioned in step 1. Joints define the limitation of models in movement. And another point that is important in this step is weight painting. The interaction of every part of the 3D model depends on the weight scale. It means that how much of parts would influence a bone in movement is essential in models realistic and natural rigging. So pretty much anything can be rigged. A spaceship or a galaxy or door, it doesn't make any difference what object it is. Adding bones will allow any object to be animated freely. Achieving smooth and complex animation is entirely depend on the quality of rigging phase in both animation and gaming pipeline. After that, after the rig is done, so this is the basic explanation of the rigging. It is much more complicated than this. After this, the more animator takes those rigs and start animating by using the dual controllers on the rig, giving motion to bring characters, vehicles, or any assets to life. Animators are responsible for giving objects weight and timing that results in objects feeling like it truly exists in the world like we see it in. Animation is usually done in an application like Maya, Blender, and 3ds Max. Is game animation is often complicated combination of different types of movement, which I come to experience while working on those projects. Their animator makes library of the movements, so they can reuse them for the each character. They work in a way that makes best use of the game engine's technology and maximizes the opportunities for gameplay and interactivity. Actually, animator play an important role in both animation and gaming pipeline, making sure that even in animation as well in the gaming world behaves the world the way the player expects. And I noticed that in gaming side, most of the animations were in cycles, especially if they are the work that we did. Most of are the cycles like walk cycle, as you can see here. So seamless walk cycle. It's the same thing to the running, jumping, and all the things like that. So I think that is all for the basic pipeline information of asset of the game development. Um, uh, Personally, I've been recently exploring the game engine too, Unreal Engine, and I can feel the technology has come very far than before. As graphic cards or GPU gained in speed, the realism of the scenes naturally got a lot better, even in the game engine. Uh, I think we are now to the point where it's really easy for an artist or designer to create really realistic scenes in game engines. This speed and ease of use has allowed game engines to trespass on non-gaming applications such as design and visualization and even rendering 3D animations. That's why a lot of animation studios are moving to game engines, especially for the rendering, mainly because of speed. Being able to render frames quickly allows us to do a lot of things which we can't do on offline rendering, like in Arnold or maybe in V-Ray. When real time is an option, we can adjust materials, lights, and camera in a 3D scene and get immediate results. No need to do a test render because we can, when we see any changes, we can directly see in the viewport. This allows us to compensate scene quickly and efficiently. Another benefit I noticed is interactivity, which allows for new methods of communicating information about the designs. We can do interactive walkthroughs in order to have the clients or director interact with an asset. We can build interfaces to change colors and options quickly. That's why projects, even I have noticed some of the company in India, uh, those who handle the big volume, huge volume to produce, are preferring game engines nowadays, and it's creating a huge scope for the people who have some experience on game development. So, talking about game development in Nepal, personally, I've seen a major increment on gamers than the past time. Back in those time, those who used to have a computer or some gadgets were usually familiar with the new games. I remember barely find friends who play games. But nowadays, I can see a lot of people due to the mobile games like PUBG have created a lot of interesting games. I can see the gaming scene has slowly started growing with professional gamers, and a lot of tournaments are taking over. Uh, but almost all the games that usually the people plays are either developed or published by the international companies. However, there are some of my colleagues who are in the process of creating indie games. Some of them are working as a freelancers for developing assets and animation for gaming companies. And I also found out that some of small companies have started here in Nepal as well, mobile games. I can see people here are slowly getting interested in the gaming field. There are a lot of youngsters exploring the game engines because there's a lot of tutorial you can find in the internet nowadays. With very experienced artists sharing the depth of their knowledge and making it easy for newborn to learn. And yeah, and also in the company, in our company, there are a lot of artists reaching us out to who have a very depth passion, but doesn't know where to have a proper knowledge or experience to these areas. So Incessant Rain, we is set to set up an academy in Kathmandu to conduct training in making animated films. The academy is expected to produce the manpower in needed animation, visual effects, filmmaking, and industry programming and app development. That will definitely covers up the good sector of game development as well. So yeah, so that's being said, I want to wrap up my talk. I hope all of you gain some of the knowledge in asset development if you don't have that. It's a creative and as well as technical field. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sajjan sir. It was a quite nice presentation on the 3D animation and assets creation. So if anyone has the question, you can just speak or you can type on the chat. So we have one question from the Anilji. So sir, can you read out on that one? So for someone like you who is self-taught, how did you know what to learn in terms of modeling, cultivating, texturing, animation during your early days? Can you explain more? Can you explain how did you make your own curriculum and how long after learning did you land your first job in 3D? The
Okay.
question is quite long. Okay, so you
Yeah, it's
can
all right,
answer.
fine. I got it. So yeah, so your question is like how I learned in house while at home and how I stumbled upon this job and like that, right? So during those times, there was not much studio. There's no much like tuitions or any classes were there. I learned from a popular website. I still remember this 3dtotal.com, where there were a lot of tutorials. I used to go with every day, but as you mentioned, there is no specific curriculums while I was studying. But one of the really fascinating thing I was attracted is modeling, actually, modeling and texturing. And I started to do a 3D modeling and texturing, and I used to share with my friends. I used to show in my family who doesn't interested much because everyone wants me to be an engineer, not a cartoonist. So and while I was learning in that time, after I remember after 4 or 5 years back, after 5 years, my animation academy started, and I went there to join. And while I was studying there were new artists who were also joined, and I talk with them. I share some of my knowledge because in those group I was the one who have a bit information, And while sharing those experience, it was back in 2010 actually. So the Incessant Rain animations, Incessant Rain Studios HR was scouting over there, and and uh, he listened my talk, and he approached me for the company visit, and I went there, and actually from the training from the training I went to the Insistent Rain. I meet with a uh, very creative people. I was really surprised in that time that that type of companies existed, those type of creative people were there. And with them, I started to learn with slowly with training. I got an internship. I come to learn about a lot of things. So yeah, so that is how I come stumble upon onto this field. I hope I made it clear. So that is why that's a very important thing is to be close with the production team, to be close with the one who is very experienced. That will boost you a lot of things. Though while I was training at home, and while I reached to the studio, I found it a very difference in my own capacity, and I learned a lot of things. Yeah.
Thank you, Sajjan sir. So thank you for the question, Anilji. Uh,
Yeah, I'd like to.
Supriya ji, just a minute. So we are out of time, right? So if you have any question, then you can directly reach with Sajjan sir. So Sajjan sir, can you provide your
Yeah, sure. I saw,
email or
yeah,
LinkedIn?
yeah, sure. I just put my email in the chat. Sorry, I just didn't mention in my PPT. So here's my email address, guys. You can reach to me anything. Where we are starting our academy, and anyone who are passionate enough to this field, especially from the this area, I highly welcome. Yeah, and maybe I can visit you the studio here in Nepal, Kathmandu.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, Supriya ji, so we couldn't take your answer. So we are out of time as we conduct only for 1 hour the webinar. Right. So thank you, Sajjan sir, for your wonderful
Welcome.
presentation. So it
Okay.
was quite interesting. And thank you all, sir, for coming and giving us the wonderful presentation on your side about the IGDA. And I'd like to thanks to all the attendees for the active participation. And I hope in the upcoming series also you will join our webinar. With last, I want to thanks to our supporters, Microsoft Impact Hub and Living with ICT. So with their help, we are doing the webinar. Thanks to them. And we will see you on our next series. Thank you all. Have a nice day. And
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Take care. All the best. Hope to see you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.